Only eating at the Olive Garden for a full day. You gotta try all 3 dipping sauces. The 5-cheese marinara is my personal favorite. It's so cheesy, but it's not like overly creamy. And the homemade Alfredo goes best with the breadsticks though. It's so rich and like indulgent and salty. And the chicken and gnocchi soup is their best one. I don't even want to argue, okay? The dumplings are so soft, they melt in your mouth, and the spinach adds a lot of flavor. And I've never tried the toasted ravioli, but I think they needed to swap out their fry oil because it tasted a little old. It was way better with the Alfredo sauce because the creaminess kind of counteracted like the oiliness. And then I heard the chicken and shrimp carbonara was good. They actually gave me a lot of meat, and I know it's not really carbonara and the pasta was overcooked and everything, but I just love the bacon and the creamy sauce, and the shrimp was pretty tender and the chicken was pretty juicy. And then I've never tried this chocolate brownie lasagna before, but it is thick. The brownie is like super fudgy, but the vanilla cream cheese frosting is way too sweet in my opinion. And later we ordered a bunch of appetizers, and I am such a sucker for spinach artichoke dip, but this one was a little disappointing. It just kind of tasted plasticky and left like a film in my mouth. I actually love the super crunchy flatbread crisps though. And then they have these fried ziti stuffed with cheese. With the Alfredo sauce, it's just kind of like cheese on cheese, and it's a little too intense, but with the marinara, it kind of works, like a little crispy and warm and salty. And I feel like I'm kind of a bad judge of tiramisu because I love every tiramisu I ever try. It's like hard to mess up. It's creamy custard with yummy espresso soaked ladyfingers, and it actually wasn't too sweet. And our server gave us so many mints. They're so refreshing and chocolatey, and that's all for today. Only eating Filipino food for a full day. I always have to get halo halo because ube is like one of my favorite flavors. It's so unique. It's like nutty but smooth and vanilla-y, and the sweet coconut with the fresh mango. And don't worry, I did mix it all together. I just had to eat some first to make more space. And honestly, my favorite Filipino dish is lumpia. The paper thin, crispy, crunchy outside with a juicy, meaty pork filling. And then it came with this like yummy, salty dipping sauce. At least I think it was for the lumpia. I don't know, but it was delicious. I also got patatim, which is this super savory, flavorful braised pork that had this amazing like soy garlic flavor, and look at how tender. My mouth is literally watering. And then I went overboard. I ordered so much food for my family to try, and you already know I had to get pancit, which are these yummy rice noodles, and they're like so thin. They're such a fun texture. But this chicken adobo is some of the best chicken I've had in my life. It was insanely moist, so tender, like everything chicken should be, just bursting with flavor. And you got to take the juice from the chicken and pour it on everything. Like it soaks into the rice and adds so much savory flavor. And these longanisa were a little sweet, so juicy. Like they really know how to make pork. The only thing that was a little dry were the fried chicken wings, but they did have a nice char. We also got pancit canton, which are a little thicker. They're almost like the texture of lo mein. And yeah, that's all for today. Letting my For You page decide what I eat for a full day. Literally the first food I saw was a giant s'mores Reese's Eggo waffle thing, and who am I to argue with the TikTok algorithm gods? It's literally just Eggo waffles, Reese's cups, and jumbo marshmallows, and then you broil them so they get all melty, and it was kind of beautiful. And the Reese's got so melty too, but the waffles still had this great crispy crunch, and the peanut butter added so much flavor. I feel like it would be really good with ice cream too. Such a great late night snack idea. It's so messy, but like that's half the fun, and you can customize it too. And anyway, then at Target I saw this girl making these crispy egg taco things using feta, and I didn't know that's how you make the eggs look so crispy and beautiful. And then she put the crispy feta egg on an avocado toast tortilla, and y'all, you already know I'm obsessed with runny eggs, but like the yolk becomes like a sauce, and the feta is like salty and crunchy, and the avocado is so rich, and it would be so good with chili oil. You could totally customize this one too. And then I'm not lying, I saw 4 different TikToks of gummy candy soaked in chamoy and tahini. So to Walmart I went, and I feel like you can totally mix and match candy, like whatever your favorite is. So I used gummy peaches, and then sour gummy worms, and rainbow berry airhead extremes, and then I just added chamoy and tahini and mixed it up till it looked right. And y'all, this was wild. The sweet spicy chamoy with the sour candy, it attacks your taste buds. Like the sour hits first, and then the spicy comes later, and it's like a roller coaster of flavor. And the gummy texture with the salty spicy tahini, it's like so unique. I've really never had anything quite like it. The peach ones were definitely my favorites. And that's all for today. Everything I ate in Harry Potter world. First up, I went to Diagon Alley for some ice cream because Florida is literally boiling. I saw they had a chocolate strawberry peanut butter sundae with strawberry peanut butter ice cream that was so creamy. And it had this thick hot fudge and so much fluffy sugary whipped cream and these crunchy shortbread crumbles. Like so worth it on a hot day. And then we went to watch my friend's show. She's a star. And then we went on the ride, and then we headed to Sugar Plum Sweet Shop because I heard they had this cauldron cake that was really good. It comes in this little reusable cauldron that you can take home if you want. And it's chocolate cake with so much sugary frosting. And honestly, the cake was a lot moister than I was expecting. And yeah, they did not skimp on the frosting. So sweet and so rich. And then it was time to take the train over to Hogsmeade for 3 broomsticks. And I got the fish and chips. I'm not gonna lie, these were fire. So crispy and so flaky, and the creamy tartar sauce with like the tangy lemon juice and the deep fried fish. Like there's just something so comforting about it. The chips were a little bit small if you ask me, but they were really crunchy and salty. And again, the tartar sauce is so good. They also had butterbeer potted cream, and it's definitely super sweet like butterbeer and kind of caramelly, but it reminded me a little bit too much of the pudding cups that you used to eat at like school lunches. And then we had time for a few more rides and some more exploring. And then on the way out, I got a beef hand pie from the street cart, and it actually surprised me. It was so flaky and buttery, and the beef filling was really well seasoned. Lots of veggies and juicy, meaty beef, and it's so good with some tangy mustard. And that's all for today. Everything I ate in Minion Land? I didn't even know they were building in Minion Land at Universal, but it's so weird and quirky and cute. And anyway, I got this banana flavored soda with this thick, fluffy cream on top. It was described as a banana cream pie, and oh boy, was it sweet. But the whipped topping kind of reminded me of like a Cool Whip. I kind of liked it. You know, I have the worst sweet tooth. The banana soda was a little intense for me though. And I heard this Uncle Drew's belly filling pork sandwich was the best thing on the menu, and it had so much meat. This like salty, savory roasted porchetta with chimichurri sauce that was actually so flavorful. And it had this tangy mustard aioli and apple butter and bacon jam on a pretzel bun. Oh, and these Minion tots were so cute too. They were really crispy, crunchy, and filled with this like fluffy potato. It was so salty and so cute. And then I headed to this adorable pink bakery that had so many cupcakes and macarons and Swiss rolls and these like cute little white chocolate covered s'mores. It's so fluffy. Definitely super sweet, but the crunchy graham cracker with the soft, fluffy marshmallow, it's so much chocolate too. And the eyes were made of fondant, which isn't my favorite, but I do like the texture. It's like weirdly chewy. And this evil Minion peanut butter and jelly cake pop was wild. The jelly flavor was so intense. It was like eating a jar of jam with some peanuts in it, but the nutty with the sweet fruitiness kind of worked, and it was so moist too. And finally, I had to get a popsicle because it's 1,000,000 degrees outside. This Nutella flavored one was probably my second favorite thing all day. It was actually super chocolatey, really refreshing, and like the crunchy chocolate coating with the smooth filling. And that's all for today. Only eating Studio Ghibli food for a full day. Kiki's delivery service was my favorite movie growing up, so for breakfast I had to make her fluffy pancakes, and if you add egg whites it makes them like extra fluffy. And then I cooked up the biggest sausage I could find, and I added some tomatoes, and I feel like it looks pretty good. The pancake was fluffy and sugary and everything a pancake should be, but the sausage was my favorite. It was so juicy and savory and flavorful, and it had this like perfect snap. And you already know I had to make the iconic pumpkin herring pot pie, and in Japan pumpkins are actually what we would call like an acorn or a butternut squash. So you steam it till it's soft, and then you mix it with some sauteed onions. And then I made a bechamel sauce, which was so thick. And then you had a whole can of smoked herring, which actually didn't smell fishy. It just smelled smoky and delicious. And I didn't make my own puff pastry because I don't hate myself. But look at my little fish. He turned out so cute. I feel like this looked just like the movie. And it was so good. It was rich and buttery and like salty, savory. And the pastry was flaky, and the fish was not overpowering at all. And finally, it was time to conquer Kiki's chocolate cake. So I made this cake that called for stout, espresso powder, and mayonnaise, and chopped chocolate. Also, I decided to make buttercream and chocolate ganache. I didn't know you use corn syrup to make the ganache like smooth and shiny and pretty. And then you can just buy modeling chocolate at the store, and you cannot tell me that doesn't look just like Kiki's cake. And then remember when you were a kid and you wanted to like sit down and eat an entire chocolate cake with a fork? Well, dreams come true. This is by far the best cake I've ever made. It was so freaking moist. I think that's the mayo, and so chocolatey and so rich. And the modeling chocolate was kind of good, like way tastier than fondant for sure. And that's all for today. Only eating frozen meals from Trader Joe's for a full day. They have Philly cheesesteak bows. And look, they are really fluffy, but American cheese and steak in a bow just doesn't compare to like a sweet barbecue pork or a red bean paste. But y'all already know chili oil makes everything better. And I decided to air fry this mandarin orange chicken, so it got super crispy. And they give you so much sauce. Like, you gotta respect that. You could just drench them in sauce, which is super sweet, but they were so crispy, crunchy. I wish some of the pieces were a little bigger and just had like more chicken in them, but for frozen chicken, it's pretty decent, like so much crunch. And I was just so intrigued by this meatless cheeseburger pizza with pickles. Honestly, I thought the cheese was vegan or something because it was a little plasticky, but it's just normal cheddar cheese. It actually did have a lot of meatless meat, and the crust wasn't bad, and I liked the pickles, but there's just so many good frozen pizza brands out there. Like, this one was just okay. And I was so curious about this steak and stout pie, y'all. It was so good. The crust was perfectly buttery, golden brown, and flaky, and the filling was so rich and so salty, savory, and meaty, and no notes. And then this This was the most disappointing dish of the day. It's pepperoni mac and cheese, and the pepperonis did get nice and crispy, but there just like wasn't enough cheese at all. Like at the bottom, there was just no cheese. It was just naked noodles, and the red sauce was all right, but yeah, just more cheese, please. And finally, I tried the chocolate lava cakes. They didn't quite like have rivers of lava coming out of them, but they were so warm and gooey like a brownie, like so chocolatey and soft and melty and thick, and I just love brownies, so these were fire. And that's all for today. Only eating Little Caesars for a full day. I've never been to Little Caesars before. I didn't know they have stuffed pretzel crust pizza. The actual pizza was just okay. It was a little underbaked, but the stuffed crust was kind of fire. It was so salty, really soft, and so much cheese. I also tried the cheesy jalapeno sauce that wasn't very spicy, but I guess if you like cheese sauce on pizza, it's okay. And I keep hearing about crazy bread, so I got the cheese stuffed ones because of course, and they were fire. They were so buttery and kind of garlicky, and it came with crazy sauce, which is basically just a marinara. It is pretty flavorful for like a takeout pizza marinara, but the bread was fire. And I also got the M&M cookie dough brownies with fluffy cookie dough frosting. They were so sweet, so thick, but the M&Ms really helped. They added a great crunch. And later I decided to try the wings. Was this a mistake? Possibly. The buffalo sauce was super acidic and they were just kind of fatty. Not my favorite. But this Detroit style pizza was up there with Domino's for me. Like the crust was perfectly thick and crunchy, and the cheese was so melty, and the pepperonis were crispy, and with the garlic butter, oh my god, it's so good. And finally, I tried the Italian cheesy bread, which also had like that nice crispy thickness of the Detroit style, and it was really garlicky, super salty. The regular pepperoni was pretty boring, kind of underbaked, just like a little too doughy, but say it with me, chili oil makes everything better, and that's all for today. Only eating food crimes for a full day. For breakfast, I made a Nutella bacon sandwich. So I saw this online and honestly, it sounded kind of fire. Also, I just wanted an excuse to buy Nutella because I have an addiction. And y'all, the crispy, crunchy, greasy bacon with that thick, rich, sugary Nutella and like the buttery toast. It's such a masterpiece. It's so simple, but so incredible. Chris loved it too. And then I heard about some people putting orange juice in cereal, and I figured Cinnamon Toast Crunch would be the best because like cinnamon and orange kind of go together like Christmassy flavors, but this was wild. It was so much more intense than I was expecting. It is kind of Christmassy, but so tart and like sour. It just smacks your taste buds with orange flavor that doesn't really go well with the sweet cereal. Chris definitely agreed. And okay, I feel like people actually do this one, and I guess it makes sense, but putting ketchup on spaghetti is something I never thought I would try, and it feels wrong on so many levels, but I kind of weirdly liked it. It's so sugary, but like at the end of the day, it's still a tomato sauce kind of on spaghetti. Like my brain justified it, and I kind of liked it. And I'm sorry if this is your thing, but mayo on pineapple was by far the worst one. Like I could barely get it down. The acidity of the pineapple almost made the mayo curdle. I don't know, but it was so bad. And finally, the grand finale. So this was suggested by one of my best friends, Austin, who makes these crazy food concoctions, and it's an ice cream sundae, but you replace the ice cream with ramen. It's definitely giving Elf, but the noodles were still warm, so the chocolate got all melty, and the M&Ms and peanuts added a little crunch, and it's definitely not as good as actual ice cream, but it wasn't bad. Like it could be like a fun, weird late night snack adventure. And that's all for today. Only eating halal food for a full day. I've never been to a halal, guys. I didn't know how many options they have. You make your own platter and they just pile on this famous white sauce and this hot sauce that is seriously so spicy. And I got this really delicious, like perfectly thinly sliced beef gyro and this lamb that was so well seasoned and so juicy. I added jalapenos and olives, and the flavor texture combo is wild. It's like so creamy and spicy and like crispy and meaty. The falafel was so good too, really crunchy. And then later I went to my local halal spot, which is like a whole grocery store too. They had so much stuff. And I got this kafta sandwich with this amazingly flavorful ground beef. I literally don't know how they do it. It's just bursting with this salty, savory flavor. It was spicy too. It had a bunch of crunchy pickled veggies and hummus. And then these are the biggest stuffed grape leaves I've ever seen. They were jammed full of this like tangy, kind of acidic rice and lamb and tomatoes. And it came with this super garlicky, creamy sauce and pickles. And you guys, look at this gorgeous kanafe. So it's this crunchy shredded phyllo dough stuffed with ashta cream, which is like really rich and thick, and the rosewater syrup adds this kind of fragrant flavor, and it's so sugary sweet. I love kanafe so much. And finally, I tried this massive piece of baklava that tasted just like pecan pie. It was so sugary and so crispy, and that's all for today.